Are you ready? Stand by!
Hundreds of thousands of Canadians are involved in shooting sports. We traveled the country to bring you the events and the people that make this incredible community unlike any other.
Whoa!
Welcome to the CCFR's Canada Downrange. So the AGM is typically the event where we find out who our new directors are. Some people have questions, the inner workings of the CCFR, maybe about our policies or about different things that we've done and why we do the things that we do and why we have to take the positions that we do.
CCFR is family. It's bringing people of like interests together and just getting the word out that a title or a lawful sporting or recreation choice shouldn't make you a criminal, at least in the eyes of the government.
CCFR is there to help educate. It's not just promoting firearms, it's educating the public as to what their rights are and how serious their rights are actually being affected.
I come to the AGM because I found an organization that is standing up for what I couldn't stand up for on my own. They give me a platform to be able to go out into the public and tell people, look, you got to go to our website, you got to check this out. Check us out on Facebook, that kind of thing. You're going to learn so much about guns that you never knew.
Everybody's been very welcoming. All they want to do is shake your hand and find out what kind of toys you have. So it's a lot of fun to come to something like this, which I don't get the opportunity to do very often, and talk to people of like-mindedness, and it's just really nice. You can kind of breathe a breath of fresh air when you come into this room and talk to the people.
Wonderful thing about the firearms community is that it's encompassed by people from all walks of life, all levels of education, all levels of interest. But people fail to perhaps realize that the millions of firearms owners in Canada are law-abiding, respectful, dignified people.
So an event like this it's about camaraderie, it's about family, because we are a family, we're a community. And it gives us an opportunity to bounce ideas off of each other.
The CCFR, in my opinion, is probably one of the best organizations I've ever seen. Everyone here is so passionate about what they do. They're all very respectful and professional, and I can't think of a better organization to represent gun owners to the government, to the media.
This year we're having a question and answer period with Tracy Wilson and I, which is an excellent opportunity to just address the questions of our members directly. This is an opportunity for people in person to ask us.
It is important to take an active role in your organization, and we welcome it. So good job to you guys for coming out, and I'm super stoked to see the numbers we're getting.
You guys have questions and we'll answer them. Someone had a question, all right.
Have you identified any online news sources that you are comfortable with or leery of?
Well, we've definitely identified a few that we are a little leery about. We're at a strange place because the legacy media or the mainstream media traditionally isn't supportive of our sport or our lifestyle. So, then you've got the other side of the coin where you've got a lot of smaller independent medias out there doing their best to get the word out. The problem is it's hard to not cross that line into something a little more radical or, a little more crazy. So
yeah, we will never get a fair shake from the mainstream media, period. Today it's weird, if you talk to somebody, you've now hitched your wagon to them. And certainly our political adversaries like to try to make associations with us and whoever we're talking about. The idea of free association doesn't exist any longer. So that's, I think that's handicapping kind of the growth of independent media. We also have some very special guests. We have Ryan Slingerland, who is the 16-year-old young man who was part of the second largest e-petition in Canadian history, which was against Bill C-71.
If we want to solve crime, we have to do so from an approach that empowers those enforcing the law, not the criminals. By increasing the skills and capabilities of the Border Patrol agents and police officers, we will be able to crack down on gang violence and crime in our country. Through the help and support of fellow firearm owners, we managed to garner over 86,000 signatures, making it the second largest signed e-petition ever. Now, before I leave here tonight, my message is simple. That is, don't give up. Keep fighting the good fight. It might seem like there is nothing more that we can do, but it's exactly the opposite. Thank you.
The CCFR's Canada Downrange is brought to you by The Shooting Edge, SFRC, Select Shooting Supplies, the Calgary Shooting Center, Target Sports Canada, and Canuck and Bagheera.
We also have Michelle Rempel, who's an MP, an RPAL holder, and also a CCFR member here to speak to us during dinner.
So I want to speak to you tonight as a firearms owner and a concerned Canadian before my role as a member of Parliament. Because the issue that we're dealing with here tonight and at this point in time, it transcends just the firearms file, because it speaks to a broader problem in Canada that relates to our ability to put forward public policy that's in the best interests of Canadians, and frankly, to some of the democratic freedoms we enjoy as a country.
It's very easy as a politician to be anti-gun because it's such an easy thing to do. You're not going to get any resistance from mainstream Canada, people that don't own guns. But you're certainly going to be targeted if you are standing up for the rights of people, of a minority of people. So the political risk associated with that, we really appreciate her sticking her neck out for gun owners. So typically at AGMs, we talk a lot of politics, and our issue itself is really stressful. It's very negative because we're always, in this quest to be left alone.
The government doesn't want anyone to be owning firearms who isn't a member of the government, a member of the police force or the military.
They need to stop trying to decide exactly, micromanage more or less what we are allowed and not allowed to do and own.
It's leading toward bigotry, and I think there's that stereotyping. If you find out somebody's a gun owner, whoa, they must be, they're a time bomb, ready to come unglued and just go off at any second.
Okay, the criminals don't register their guns. They never will register their guns. So to tell law-abiding firearms owners that they're not coming after our guns when we have to register them, it's kind of an oxymoron.
The energy should be focused on where the problems lay within the criminal elements rather than the people who are out on a weekend having safe fun.
We are just regular people. We are very sensible. We don't want to break the laws at all. We want to comply. And we just want to live in peace and harmony with our freedoms.
Even if you look back on some of the wars and stuff, and our grandparents and our great-grandparents, this is what they wanted to design in our country. And to have that freedom to live that lifestyle, that is a value that they held dear and that they sacrificed for us. And that's what we hope to continue to foster in our country now.
They don't feel that as citizens, we're responsible enough to have firearms. And yet I have an RPAL, a little card that I carry in my wallet that says that I'm a responsible firearms owner. I'm the only, or I should say that is the only piece of identification in this country that proves that I'm not a criminal.
I would like to make it known to members who didn't have a chance to get to the convention how well your association is working for you. Your coalition is just excellent.
Michael Loberg, our general counsel, was recognized as for his contributions to the CCFR, and I'm not sure that the CCFR would have ever happened without him. His skill set is very specific, and it's something that very few people have. And even the people that do possess that skill set, they don't work for free or work for at cost. So Mike has just been there for us through thick and thin. He's been there to pick us up when we get beat down. And he's there to make sure that we're encouraged and optimistic, and that he's there for us if we need him, and he has been countless times.
Mike's job is an interesting one. It's 50% completely decimating people and destroying them, and 50% standing up for people that need someone to stand up for them. So it's a really strange job, and I've gotten to know Mike through the CCFR, the whole CCFR thing. And I haven't met a better person for a long time, to be honest with you. So.
I've been with the CCFR from the very beginning, member number 008, and again, it's an absolute privilege to serve with everybody. We do all of this together. What we do and what you do is what makes all of this happen. Thank you.
Well deserving of anything, even that small token of our appreciation that we gave them.
We love you, Logan!
It came at a real relief that there was some recourse for gun owners. We're not just going to have to be. The government's just not going to roll over us and take our things without a little bit of resistance. It's, we're just people. We're just human beings that don't want our property taken for no good reason. But we do end up getting all the criticism being out front and taking the praise out front. And I think a lot of people probably want to tell us their ideas or give us their criticisms or give us encouragement. And that was an opportunity to do that. Not always just typing it in, to a comment box online, and I thought there was a lot of value there, and we were really happy to sit across the table from our members and talk to them and hear their concerns. The attendance was the biggest ever. The quality of our guests were great as always. We've done a lot of work, and we have a lot to be proud of this past year. So I think everybody had a really great time. They got to connect with like-minded people, and they got to feel like they weren't alone.
And once again, really appreciate your support.
My name is Mike Brake. I started my own company about 4 years ago called Brake Tactical Training Solutions. And through that company I get to train civilian, law enforcement, and military personnel in firearms and use of force. This course is called the Precision Rifle Basic Skills Course. It's 2 days in duration. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff that can be taught in precision rifle, no doubt about it. But you got to start somewhere. So I always appreciate the basics, and this basic 2-day course covers as much as we can to give the student enough to take away and be successful at it. We got to start in the classroom on day one. The classroom is all academic. They have to learn about the equipment they've come with. What is your rifle? What is the barrel twist rate in it? What ammunition are you going to use? What's your optic? Well, is your optic a minute of angles and an MRAD? What's the turret on it? What are the click values? And a lot of people just don't quite understand that and how it operates. So during the academic component, I'll give them the math involved so they know exactly what those click values are, how to make adjustments based upon information from their shots and from their groups. And this is all academic in class. I'll have them doing little set exercises in class so they understand how to use the formulas correctly. Understanding the trajectory of the bullet, the flight path of the bullet, what it's doing when it leaves your barrel, and how to form a group. Understanding the theory of a group, whether it's 3 shots, 5 shots, 10 shots, what exactly is a group, how do I obtain that group, and now once I have it, how do I adjust for it? How do I make that group go to the center of my point of aim? All that's done academically in class. Once we finally get out onto the range, I need to make sure that the rifle is fitted to them. I see a lot of shooters that try to adapt themselves to the rifle, and that's just not going to be successful. You know, you bought this firearm system, we will make it fit you. We can adapt things on the rifle to make it fit you better. Get comfortable with it. Once the rifle is fitted to the shooter, next is the optic. Is it properly mounted? Is it fitting you correctly with eye relief, the height, and the level, making sure that the reticle is level with the rifle and the rifle is level with Mother Earth. all that translates into better success downrange. Building up there as firmly as possible, so there's a little human element involved in the actual prone position itself. Now what can we do to make good shots? We learn about the prone position, what it takes to adapt a nice, comfortable prone position so that everything is neatly in line with your target. How to breathe, how to manipulate the trigger, how to get yourself some mental marksmanship principles. How do I do things every single time? And that's probably the most difficult part when it comes to precision shooting. Being consistent with every shot. In that firearm that you purchase, make sure it's adjustable for the cheek and the length of pull, because everybody's built differently, and that's one thing that we're always changing for shooters on our courses in an effort to make that rifle fit them. It's one thing for us to learn the physical applications of firing those good shots, and that's the prone position, breathing, relaxing, but now I have to get into what is a mental program. That physical component has to be done every single time for every shot, and that takes mental capability. Physically we can do it, but in order to do it consistently every time for perfect shots, perfect performance, that takes a mental approach. So we try to work with the shooters on that first day, building their position, building their platform, the prone position, breathing, relaxing. Now what's going through your head? What are you thinking right now when you're firing that shot? We'll assess the target at the end, but we're assessing the shooter first. And there's a number of drills that we do on day one that help us assess their position, their trigger control, their breathing, and their mental game. Where's their headspace at? Once we've established that the shooter and the system is working good on that day one, now we're allowed to come over to a longer range and put that kind of, all that information, all that technique into different ranges, different skills. Everybody is shooting great, and that gives me the confidence that it's okay for us to go next door to the long distance portion of the range and shoot at greater distances. We come to the 600 meter where you are now, and we get to play with our walkbacks. That's what we call them, walkbacks, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 600 meters. And you get, roughly 20 or 30 minutes at each distance to practice whatever it is you want to practice at that distance. As we progress significantly backwards, all that happens is the bullet starts dropping. That's not hard to figure out. So what the shooter gets to learn is, well, how much is my bullet dropping at this range? I will provide that information for you. We have people working at the targets, take a simple measurement, and based upon the academic portion, the math that you learned, here's how much you're off. You guys do the calculations, apply those corrections to your turrets, and make your shot. To take the information that's provided, use the equipment that you've bought and paid for, and make a simple, quick correction or solution, and make your hit. They were doing it at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 600 meters. Hopefully wrapping up in the context that you've learned a lot now, you've got to maintain it. Well, what's next is putting a little pressure on yourself. Taking these perfect shots, perfect applications, and apply a little bit of stress. That's the next level of their game. If I was to give any advice to potential students that want to come on a course like this, don't cheap out on that firearm. Buy the rifle that is true to form, that is built for precision. Likewise with the optic. The optic has to be built for precision. Likewise with the ammunition. You cannot cheap out on the ammunition, and it shows every time. And then have somebody that's competent to put it together. If you trust your dad or trust your Uncle Bob or your hunter buddy to put all that together for you, probably not a good idea. I strongly recommend going to a store with a competent gunsmith, have them install the optic for you, get it all ready to go for you. Come here to us and we'll help fit it to you.
The CCFR's Canada Downrange is brought to you by The Shooting Edge, SFRC, Select Shooting Supplies, the Calgary Shooting Center, Target Sports Canada, and Canuck and Bagheera.
Hey guys, it's Rod with a quick pro tip this time, unlike the other times. I just wanted to let you know that you do not need a PAL to shoot a gun in Canada. So I just want to make that clear. Not a lot of people know that you don't need a firearms license to go shooting, and there's actually ranges out there that rent firearms and will give you a lesson right off the street. There's a lot of businesses out there, and they're actually growing. And even in the lower mainland of Vancouver, we've seen a bit of growth in that industry. And in fact, there was even a range, probably one of the first ones was at West Edmonton Mall, where you have a range inside of a mall, man. You can just walk in there and shoot a gun and have someone instruct you how to do it. So remember that if you're a gun owner, people that you take shooting do not have to have a PAL. In Canada, you only need a PAL to acquire a firearm legally and to be in sole possession of it. So I would encourage you to take anybody you can shooting. Just make sure that you are compliant with what the firearms program expects from you as a gun owner that's taking a new person shooting, which is that you have to be physically close enough to intervene if that person uses the firearm in an illegal manner or an unsafe manner, right? Illegal meaning that they pointed the muzzle at somebody, right? Because if you guys remember from last season, I mentioned it's a criminal offense to point a firearm at another human being without lawful excuse, whether it's loaded or not. So you got to be really close to these people. Their shoulders should be right here. They should feel you breathing on them. You should be so close. And that way you can make sure that they don't have their finger on the trigger. And should they start turning the muzzle direction, you're right there to make that correction when need be. So again, I'll sum it up. You do not need a license to shoot a gun, only to be in sole possession of one or to legally acquire one. Hopefully it was a quick pro tip. Hopefully it was helpful. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Remember, if you don't stand up for your own ability to own and use firearms, who will? Join the CCFR or donate right now at www.firearmrights.ca.